When I think about the discourse that is now stirring up between childless women and women who are married, I believe that this is nothing more than just a ploy to create more division and competition in the lives of women. Jealousy persists in every aspect of life. There's always going to be people who are jealous. And from someone who was once in that position, I realized that I don't think it was jealousy as much as I think it was a lack of empathy that I had for my friend who was a mother. If I'm being honest, you don't understand the struggles. You can be a bit insensitive about the things that you say. You may not be able to show up for this friend in the same ways in the ways in which his friend may need, right? Because you guys are in two different places in your lives. Motherhood, marriage, all of these things are incredibly life-changing. And it's one of those things that it's like climbing a mountain and being on the other side of that mountain. And if you've never climbed that mountain, you can't possibly relate to what it is that this person may need. You can't possibly be empathetic to, you know what I mean? And understand, where this person is in their lives. And you could easily, chalk this off and be like, well, that was their choice. But what kind of friend would you be? Right? Like now we have to kind of look at your character, now we have to kind of look at you and say, well, what's going on here? Right? Because if you say, well, that was her choice and that was her life. And, that has nothing to do with me. Then I have to ask you, why are you friends with married women? You know what I mean? If you know that they're in a different place in their lives, and if you know what I mean, like maybe you're the problem, you know what I mean? So I just think that, this discourse right now, let's just go ahead and settle this for once and for all. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. I don't think that women are jealous of women, and vice versa, because I believe that there are different stages in life and there are different stages in regards to motherhood. Do I think bitterness persists in every aspect of life? Yes, regardless of what choice that you make. You can kind of see this in professional settings, right? We can very easily say, hey, older women are jealous of younger women. And that might be true, right? In professional settings, or it could be that, perhaps, they're feeling some type of way about the credit that the credit that you're getting, the attention that you're getting that is undeserved, for your lackadaisical work ethic, your pretty mediocre work ethic, and and is there not some truth to that? I'm not saying that it makes it right, but let's not sit here and act like, there isn't any relevancy in that. Is there not any relevancy in seeing someone just be able to skate along and receive privileges that are highly undeserved? Doesn't that feel like a bit of an injustice? And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not here to play the morality game. I'm just saying, let's just talk about it in a very realistic way. I think a lot of times we get online and we like to adopt these attitudes that are so moralistic, and it's just totally bullcrap to me. It's totally bullcrap. So, is that the case? Is it really a matter of jealousy, or are you just in two different places in your lives? And I think this is why we pose the question of whether or not single women and married women can even be friends, and it's not anything personal. I don't think it's to demonize, one another, or to critique rather a particular lifestyle choice. But I think it is to acknowledge that, hey, we live two different lifestyles. You know what I mean? Hey, you're over here and I'm over there. Right. And sometimes it's just a matter of a compatibility issue. I don't think we have to stir up ruckus and say there's jealousy, there's competition, and make it more than what it is. I think there's really something that a lot of women derive from the idea that you are better than another woman, that somebody is jealous of you. I've realized that for some women, it's really saddening, but for a lot of women, they get something from other women being jealous of them. They like it. It's almost like a fuel to them. It adds to their level of confidence. It adds to their sense of confidence and self-worth. They actually relish in the idea of other people being envious of them. They create narratives, and they create narratives, attitudes, and depictions of themselves just so that other people will marvel, and what is that? Is that narcissism? Is that female narcissism? What is that about some women that really derive their sense of confidence from other people being jealous of them? I don't understand it. And I'm not gonna, come on, seriously. You know what I mean? I'm a beautiful woman. I've dealt with jealousy in my life, but it's never anything that I've intentionally induced. And it's never been anything that has ever, that I've ever derived my sense of self-worth or confidence from. Quite frankly, I have oftentimes had a lot of compassion for the people who were jealous of me. Not always, some of them were pretty cruel. But at the end of the day, when do we kind of grow up as women? When do we kind of matriculate from girlhood into womanhood? When does the cattiness kind of like stop? You know what I mean? When do we start to kind of like mature and start to acknowledge the struggles that are collective within just the I don't want to say the female experience, but just within the womanly, we'll say female experience. Okay. That sounds better. When do we start to acknowledge that we all matriculate from girlhood to womanhood, and we all start to be a little bit more invisible in society? You know what I mean? Like, when do we start to acknowledge, the elders and their, internal suffering from no longer being beautiful, from no longer, like, when do we start to acknowledge the collective experience of womanhood? That is one in which none of us can avoid, right? And I think we're always going to struggle with this, because in modern day, women were avoiding motherhood. Women were avoiding womanhood, right? Whether it's motherhood, wife, being a wife or whatever, which is fine. I'm not here to project. I don't care. Do what you want with your life, right? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, typically and traditionally, these are the things that have defined womanhood, right? Motherhood, wifehood, whatever. So when you avoid these things, when you forego these things, and now you're also wanting to forego aging, you're wanting to forego ageism. I'm like, when do we acknowledge that as women, we all share a very collective experience of being this beautiful lily that grows older, and, it doesn't wither and die. It just becomes like this very beautiful, staple. Or perhaps maybe I think a better example would be like a tree. You know what I mean? Like, when do we acknowledge that? I don't understand. And I think this is why we struggle, in sisterhood. This is why it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? This is why our friendships today and our friendship have always been predicated on superficialities. This is why women suffer. This is why everyone can benefit from the nurturing of women except for women. This is why women are not nurtured. This is why single women are not nurtured, and they're, struggling with loneliness or whatever other issues that they may be having within their singlehood. This is why mothers are struggling. This is why wives are struggling, right? And everybody who is benefiting from women's nurturing, men, children, etc., but not women. Oh no, not women. So I'm not going to sit here and act like, building sisterhood is easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like everyone is always on board. But what I'm not going to do is engage with you guys in this discourse that doesn't exist. You're just stirring up drama. You are stirring up drama. I know that in a modern day, it's so easy to chase after fantasy, right? We're very lustful of the eyes these days. We want to believe that if we take a chance on more, right? We pull the lottery, we take a chance on more, we are going to end up with a better reward. And I actually think that the idea of security and stability for some women is quite literally frightening, because they know that ultimately this is going to be the destination, right? When you're online, it's kind of like a lottery. You are, you're engaging in dopamine. It is the highest form of escapism, and you're engaged with the possibility of a thing. But in your current reality, you're very far from that thing. And you also have to embrace the reality that in life, you are playing the lottery, right? And so this idealized version of you may actually never come to pass, right? And much of these conversations are modeled after, again, white women who are the most privileged women in society, right? So not only do they have the resources, you know what I mean? But they're living in an alternate reality. So it's like, really, what are we talking about? What are the chances? What are the slim pickings that you are going to go and live this life that is just so incredibly fabulous, and you're just single and you're free from all these different, you know what I mean? Because I know some single Black women, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But I know the realities of life. Let me just say that. Married, single, it doesn't matter. I know the realities of women in life, and very seldom is, for Black women specifically, very seldom are our lives ever modeled after white single women, white childless women or white married women. Okay. So much of what we're chasing is a fantasy. And I just think that it's important for us to acknowledge this. Okay. Now, I think that this calls for a lot of nuance. Something that's coming to my mind is people saying things like, oh, you're settling, or, marry this type of guy, or whatever the case may be. And again, I'm older. I'm not really here to engage with modern day aesthetics or modern day, like fantasies. I'm past that. So I don't want to get too much into that, but just know that I'm leaving it open. Okay. There's a lot we didn't address, and there's also a lot I'm not saying, in that I'm not telling you to settle with your life. Okay. Quite frankly, I think me going on is me losing the plot. So we're going to go ahead in here. But I don't think that this competition exists. And quite frankly, it doesn't need to exist, because guess what? We're all going to get old. We're all going to get old. We're all going to get older. We're all going to have experiences in life that are going to demand that we grow. And that's a beautiful experience. And that's the journey of a woman. So peace.